the meeting, and then you can, the agenda calls for there to be any. No problem. Calls for there to be any modifications to the agenda, and staff doesn't have any recommendations or any changes, and then just move into the public hearing, delegate that to me.
Sign it.
Okay. So,
Call this meeting of the Policy Planning Commission open at 6:03. There any, well, we need a roll call.
Oh, yes, roll. So I'll call the roll. Eldon Albertson here, Ken Lorenzen
Here.
Mitch Little.
Here.
Mary Price is not present, and Ann Sunday.
Here.
And there are 4 members present, and there is a quorum.
Okay. There any agenda documents?
Staff does not have it.
Okay. So, we're opening the public hearing.
So I will, if the commission wishes, I can run the hearing process. The first thing I'll do is go through basically a script and ask the commission members whether you have any declarations of conflict of interest or ex parte contact. And when we get to those points, I'll ask the questions. So this is a public hearing to consider land use file 23-03, an application from Leland and Lindsay Zehr of Zehr Construction for approval of site design plan, which will allow them to develop property at 1093 West First Street with a construction office and a storage yard facility. A copy of the agenda and the hearing procedures for the meeting are available. There is a set over on the front counter. There's also another set here if people would like to take a look at them. The applicants are present and represented by, where's Laura Bash? Oh, Laura.
Back here.
And could you introduce yourself, Laura, quickly for representatives from UDAL?
Of course, thank you. My name is Laura LaRock with UDAL Engineering. I'm the land use planner. And joining me this evening is our engineer, or civil engineer, Andrew.
And we've got the applicant.
Yeah, we want Zehr.
Okay. A copy, as the planning commission will consider this application, written and oral testimony tonight. And you have to take into consideration the criteria that are listed in the staff report that was available for all the members of the commission before the meeting. Any testimony, arguments, and evidence received during the public hearing must be directed to those approval criteria or to such other rule, law, regulation, or policy which anyone in the audience believes may apply to this case. If anyone has any questions or objections during the proceedings regarding the statement I'm giving right now or to the conduct of the hearing, please raise those questions or objections during the course of the hearing and we'll do our best to answer those. If you testify on the application, either for or against, please state your name, your address, if you support the proposal or are opposed, or if you just have questions that you would like the commission or the staff to address. And if you can limit your testimony to 3 to 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. At this point, I will ask both the commission and the audience, are there any objections to the notice that was mailed out in this case? I know that the initial notice had the wrong definition of description of the property of the project. That was corrected and a new notice was mailed out. So I wanted to have that be in the record. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the planning commission to hear and consider this application? And I don't see it. I'll now ask the planning commission members if they have any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts.
I would like to make a statement. Leland Zehr is one of our project, our personal project considerations. He put in a bid on our personal project along with others, and we have not made a definite decision as of yet.
So he is not currently under contract with you.
That is correct.
Are you concerned that having that relationship with Mr. Zehr would affect your ability to make a fair and impartial decision?
No, I don't think that it will.
Is there any concern from the other commission members if Commissioner Sunday participates in the process?
No, I don't.
I'll turn to the applicant, Mr. Zehr, or Laura, do you have any concerns?
Just for the record, would there be any money exchange as an outcome?
I can't hear you.
Would there be any funds exchange as an outcome of a decision of this?
Of this meeting, from this meeting tonight.
Oh, no,
No financial gain.
no.
Okay,
I just wanted to put that out there in case somebody had an objection.
thank you very much. Are there any other declarations of potential conflicts of interest on the part of commission members?
No.
Okay, seeing none. Have there been any ex parte contact, which would be contacts either with the applicant or any neighbors about this project prior to the meeting?
No.
So with that, I think we're ready to move into the public hearing procedure. And Andrew or Laura, which one of you would like to present the? Yes.
Here. I'll join them.
Why don't you stand?
And we can probably hear you a little better.
I'll try to speak loudly.
Thank you.
Please just remind me. Okay.
Greg, can you put this light up on the screen?
Good evening. As you mentioned, my name is Laura. I'm with Udell Engineering and Land Surveying. I'm representing the property owner and applicant, Leland, who is also attending the public hearing this evening. As I mentioned, Andrew Knapp is also available. He's our civil engineer who's able to answer any specific questions that you might have about any of the infrastructure on-site improvements to that regard. So I'll give an overview of the application, then if you have specific questions, I'll be sure to hand them off to the other members if questions are better suited in their direction. So as the staff report and the application narrative has pointed out, what is before you today is a site plan review application. We're looking to make sure that the use and how the site is proposed to be developed complies with the Halsey Development Code standards. The proposed use of the building is for a contractor facility. That is a permitted use within the commercial zone where the property is located, subject to the site plan review. When we're looking at a site plan review application, particularly what we're looking at is setbacks, lot coverage, making sure your landscaping requirements are met, that the overall height doesn't exceed some of the standards, and items such as parking and connections to water, sewer, and storm drainage can all comply with the city code standards. So you can read the staff report in detail and the narrative, and they go through those code standards in great detail. But essentially, I'll recap those quickly, not to reread those verbatim. So the actual building on the site, and I should start, the site is currently undeveloped at the moment. So included in the proposal was a proposal to consolidate existing lots. So there's a few lots that make up this vacant parcel. So these lots will all be consolidated. So we'll be working with one property at the end of that. Your city planner has already approved that application. So now we're looking at how the site will be developed. The proposed building of 12,000 square feet, a little bit less, that would be oriented towards the Highway 99 and J Street. The building itself will be comprised of storage space, workspace, and other operations that are related to the contractor use of the site. So you'll see most of the building from those two streets. Behind the building, closer to J Street, let me make sure I'm having my road names correct. First Street, excuse me. Access is proposed off of First Street. The parking lot is proposed to be accessed to and from First Street. That would be the only point of access to the site. The parking lot would be between First Street and the proposed structure, so it would really be shielded by the building and landscaping from any of abutting public right of way. Parking is proposed in association with building. There are 7 spaces that are shown on the site plan. There's additional room should ever need for increased parking arise. In addition to the setting of the building, there's a pedestrian walkway that connects the main entrance of the building to the north to J Street. And also that walkway would connect to the parking lot as well. Along the perimeter of the site, there's some proposed street frontage improvements. Those street frontage improvements vary just based on what those abut. If there's existing sidewalks, then the sidewalks are proposed to connect there. If there's what we call a turnpike street, which is a paved area and a drainage swell, then those improvements are also proposed to be extended into this site. In addition, there's some landscaping that's proposed to create some aesthetics appeal and also some screening to the use in the parking lot. And there's also some street trees that are proposed along the public right of way to enhance the beauty of the area. So in short, that's the application. I'm happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, Leland's available to add on, and so our civil engineer. Does the commission have any questions about the development?
I didn't notice where the trees spelled out, what trees you were gonna be using.
Okay, yes, so.
If you go down three more sheets.
Proposed with the application, the street trees are proposed along J Street, the north of the property. You can tell those little symbols, they look like little tree limb in a round circle. Those are demonstrating tree. There's kind of a hatched area that looks like little tiny crosses. That would indicate where landscaping is going to be, such as grass or plantings.
You have not spelled out what species of tree yet.
That level of detail is not provided at this stage. We're looking for approval.
They'll be working off of the list of approved trees for Halsey event.
We will, and those will be reviewed at the time of the building permit to make sure that those. Yeah.
On your background information map, I noticed that there is a gate with knock box, fire access, and that's off of 99. What is that exactly?
Yeah, a knock box is a way for the fire department to gain access to a site that's secured. So instead of having to push through a gate, they're able to get a key that would open up that gate in the event of an emergency. The fire district reviews these applications. City staff sends out a notice before the planning commission meeting to make sure that the fire department, 1, would need access, and 2, that they could gain access per their code standards. In this case, the building is oriented close to a street.
Go what?
The building is close to a public street,
Yes.
so the fire truck could park along those streets and run a hose and be to reach around that entire building and fight fire if they would need to. Or alternatively, they can use the access that's provided off of First Street. So they don't need that Knox box or that gate in that location any longer.
But it is there.
It's there now, yeah.
And so there'll be an access off of 99.
On our proposal, we're proposing to close down the access off of Highway 99 and limit access to First Street. And that would be the
Okay.
same for fire.
So that will be eliminated.
That would be, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Curiosity. What is the building going to be made of?
On that one, I think we would describe that as a steel construction. Is that correct? Yeah, a steel
Okay,
facade.
metal.
Yeah,
Okay,
usually colored metal.
I kind of figured that that's what it was.
Something comparable to the fire department.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll fit right in with all the warehouses.
With the enhanced landscaping, we hope it looks like a nice fit for the community.
I don't know if it matters, but we didn't go into this much detail yet, but on the front side of the building, if approved, I would have been envisioning like a broken face block wainscot across the front.
Yeah.
So dressed it up a little bit from the front, but we didn't even talk about that detail.
That would be on the highway side.
No, that would be on the entrance side from First Street, so you pull into the building and look at the front, yeah. And there would be a fence around it, so I don't know how much you would see the back side from 99 anyways, but yeah.
So it's gonna be a fence that you cannot see through. It's not gonna
Well,
be a chain link or something like
It would
that.
be a chain link, but I don't know if it'd be have a privacy slats in it or not.
Like yours.
Okay.
I didn't think that through too much, I guess.
Yeah, and I think your city planner could add some detail to that, but usually those privacy slats are required for any sort of trash receptacles, but it's usually the choice of the property owner if they would like those open. Because in this instant, we're providing kind of aesthetics and a buffer, natural enhancements through landscaping instead of a screened fence. But he could choose to screen that in the future too, but it wouldn't be a code requirement.
Okay, anything else, Laura, from the applicant?
Maybe not. Any other questions I can answer? No? Okay. Thank you for your time.
So the next item on the agenda is the staff report. I will run through some of the code requirements and the things that we looked at in reviewing the application. As Laura indicated to the commission, this is allowed use within the commercial zone. Where warehouse and construction office are both compatible with the existing uses that are in the immediate area south of J Street. You can see it all the way down past Crowell and between 99 and First Street. The code requires the staff to take a look at access and circulation, landscaping, vehicle and bicycle parking, and public facility standards. And the staff report goes through that in pretty good detail as we walk through. I'm going to step over to the drawing on the screen because it's easier to probably talk off that than it is just talking on the paper. The first thing was in terms of access, this lot has abuts 99, abuts J Street, and abuts West First Street. The code is pretty clear that if you are abutting an arterial street and a local street, which J Street is and West First Street are, you have to take your driveway access from the local street, and you're prohibited from taking a new driveway off of Highway 99, which is why the back of their building is faced the way it is toward Highway 99. They could have gone off of either J Street or First, and they elected to show their driveway as a single driveway entrance off of First. I agree with their planner's comment that there is plenty of room on the site, that if they find a need for additional parking in the future, they can provide that. For this type of project, they're required to have 11 parking spaces, and they can be both on site, which they show 7 right here, and another sheet shows an additional 4 on-street parking spaces along J Street, which meets the minimum requirements. But if they find, as they begin using the property, if they need additional parking spaces, they can develop those within the site itself. There's plenty of room in the paved area, in the gravel area, that they could expand that parking is needed. The parking spaces have to be set. The office area is proposed, I believe, at this north end, Leland. And that includes a handicap access as well as a walkway to get into the main entrance, which is required. Because they're proposing to do a taller fence along this, so it's either 6 to 8 feet, they're required to have a 10-foot landscape buffer behind their property line to that new fence location. And that's what they've shown on the site plan. The landscaping plans themselves need to be refined and given details and submitted with the building permit application. As Mr. Lorenzen said, there are some specific tree requirements in the code that they have to select. Basically, it's the city of Albany list of trees that Halsey adopted. And they just have to go through and select the street trees off of that list. In addition, one thing we took a look at staff level was what improvements need to be made along the street frontage. Highway 99 is being rebuilt right now. The construction plans for Highway 99 actually show the sidewalk being extended along the face of that, or along the face of the property. On their, that's on one sheet, but on the second sheet of their construction drawings, it does not show the sidewalk being extended. So I'm not positive whether or not Wildfish will be building that section of sidewalk along 99E. The applicant requested a waiver of public improvements along that strip. And my recommendation was that the city should grant the waiver because ODOT is in the midst of doing their improvement project right now. Whatever they're going to build now is not going to change in the next 10 years, which is one of the criteria in the city's code for granting a waiver. If there's no planned improvements within a 10-year time frame, or if the city won't initiate any future improvements along Highway 99, then granting a waiver is appropriate. The city will require them to do a sidewalk connection to the new ADA ramp that ODOT has built there. That may need some reconfiguring. It's got a curve along this back edge over here. That may have to be cut out and they may have to adjust their connection there for the sidewalk. And then they'll be required to install a new sidewalk along J Street all the way to First, and then on First Street all the way south to their property line at the south end. And that's part of the construction project. The city's local street plan in the development code calls for this to be a curb and sidewalk street. It calls for a curb and sidewalk to wrap around that corner. But then when you get to the midpoint of this property, it actually called for it to be a drainage ditch because there's a pretty large drainage swale that crosses First Street a little bit further south. And the storm drainage naturally flows in there, and installing a storm sewer was not recommended when the city upgraded its or readopted its storm drainage master plan in 2019. And the code actually gives the city engineer some discretion to work with the applicant's engineer to take a look at that section from J Street south to their driveway location and decide whether or not it should be with a drainage swale or whether it should have a curb and the sidewalk installed along that section. So there is a condition of approval that's recommended that basically when they submit their final engineering plans, they need to work with the city engineer to define whether or not that would be a full curb return with curbs all the way down to the driveway, or whether or not we would allow it to go in with a drainage swale along that boundary of First Street. The applicants also are proposing water service and sewer service off of First Street. There was a building on the site that dates back. I'm not sure if those utilities will be usable, the connections. Public Works Supervisor Andy Riddinger didn't see an issue with the water service and wasn't sure of the condition of the sewer lateral, and that will just have to be investigated when they're ready to do their connection. I think those were the main public facility issues. There are a series, if you go to the last page of the staff report, or last couple of pages of the staff report, there are some recommended conditions of approval. It should be on about page 18 of the staff report with the page numbers at the bottom. Actually, you switch to the other PDF file. Switch down to page 18. Keep going a little bit higher. Stop right there. Perfect. If the staff recommendation is to approve the application, but subject to a series of conditions of approval that the applicant has to meet in order to proceed with the project. The first was they need to submit their final site development plan. In particular, they've got to have the engineering plans. They've got to coordinate with the city engineer to get those final engineering plans done. My guess is there's not a significant amount of revision, but there will be a few more sheets that I think the engineer will have to put together for the city engineer's review and approval. That also includes submitting a land use plan or a landscaping plan to the city, because there are not sufficient details on the existing landscaping plan. They've got to identify the shrubs, the ground covers, and the trees that will be installed. Expiration of approval, basically they have 1 year from the date of the city approval to be able to submit the final plans and apply for the building permits. They will need to get, if you can scroll down the next page, agency approval, they'll have to get an access permit from the city policy to do work within Bay Street and within First Avenue. And very clearly states that no driveway access, if this plan is approved by the planning commission, they will not be allowed driveway access onto J Street. At this point, they will not be allowed driveway access on the Highway 99. They've got to use the driveway that's proposed on First Street. They've got to get a right-of-way construction permit, which is really the same permit form. And if they're not going to have the work completed by the time they want to open the facility, they would have to provide a performance bond or guarantee to guarantee the city improvements are completed along the streets and the utilities. Public works requirements, if we can scan down, there are some curbs that they're taking out, some existing driveways on J Street. They're planning on replacing those. Installing that new sidewalk on J Street that I mentioned. On First Street, the same issues, curbs and drainage, the new 5-foot sidewalk going all the way to the south property line. Storm drainage improvements, depending on what the city engineer and the applicant's engineer determine. And then it would be, there would be a deferral and a non-remonstrance agreement, which basically is an agreement between the city and the applicant that says, if the city upgrades the street with full curb and gutter and storm drainage improvements in the future, that the applicant or the property owner will pay their fair share of the cost for their frontage improvements along that section. If the city would get grants to help pay for some of those improvements, then the applicants would not be responsible. But if the city would be financing the improvements with city funds and would be billing property owners their fair shares, then there would be an assessment that would be imposed on the property. I'm not sure that Halsey has done that.
They've never done that.
I'm not sure Halsey's ever done that, but it reserves the right for them to do it in the future if they would have funds available. Second Street, Highway 99. There are no street storm or sidewalk improvements required. And at the city, my recommendation was the city waive the improvement requirements for Second Street. I mentioned the water and sewer improvements and the storm drainage improvements. As part of the storm drainage, they would have, their engineer would have to do a report that he reviewed by the city engineer for the volume of water coming through. They're showing quite a bit of internal storm drainage improvements on site, which hopefully will retain much of the storm water and then release that out to the storm drain system in a slower manner than just a quick dump. Landscaping improvements. They do need to submit the revised landscaping plan. They need to show all landscaping trees, street trees. And I am recommending that there be additional street trees placed along Highway 99 frontage and that their landscaping extend either to the back of the sidewalk or to the ditch line along Highway 99 if they don't, if ODOT does not construct the sidewalk at this point. That can be as simple as grass or bark with trees. It's something your landscape designer just needs to propose to the city to review. Final inspection certificate of occupancy. Prior to release of a certificate of occupancy for the developer or the construction company to move into the building, they would have to have the work completed, or they would have to provide that financial guarantee. So we know that any of the landscaping and public improvements are guaranteed, it would be completed in time. So my recommendation to you at this point is to approve it, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. If there's testimony we get tonight that has some other concerns, we can address those and add changes if need be at the end of the discussion.
As a matter of information, the sewer connection is about, I think, in the center of that block. Well, the full size thing. Together.
Can you go back to the picture?
And that was to a house that was built, I think, probably in the 30s or 40s, a small single family.
And that was Andy's concern, is it's an old lateral and he just does not know the condition of it, and it may be that they have to.
The sewer probably went in the 60s, because I think Halsey did a big project then.
Could you go back up one sheet?
And so it might have been connected to the city sewer in the 60s. I think it was mid-60s.
Yeah, most of those city lines put in then were cement lines.
Yeah, there's a sanitary sewer lateral at the bottom end of what they're proposing for the building right here.
Yeah.
And that was, as you mentioned, serves an old house. The water meter location is right there. You can actually go out and find that on the site.
Mhm.
Whether they reuse that location or reset one is the applicant's choice. And there is a hydrant right in front of the property that provides fire protection.
That sewer main out there isn't that deep if you had to go back to the main.
But it is across the street. It's in,
Yeah.
it's in,
Just mine was 17 feet deep. Well, we did our place.
always fun.
That's a hole in the ground.
You just lived on the wrong side of
I
town.
lived on the wrong side of town, yeah.
So that concludes the staff report. I'd like to ask if there are any people who are in favor of the proposal. And would like to testify in favor of the applicant.
I just had a couple of questions, is that all right?
Sure.
So I'm Jeremy Romer, I live at 287 West J Street, which is right across the street from this building that's going up. Did I understand that the road improvements aren't going all the way to the city limits as far as gutters and storm drainage
On First Street, that's correct.
on Highway 89?
No, well, I'm not sure. The plan showed that the sidewalk will go down to where the intersection is with Crowell. And will terminate there. And then from there, south beyond Crowell, goes to just being a roadside ditch along Highway 99 on the east side. On the west side of 99, it goes all the way down to J Street with, I believe, curb and gutter and sidewalk.
Okay, so my concern would be with drainage, depending on, which way things end up sloping and whatnot. There's already a bit of a drainage issue, kind of in that area. Right along. I guess the city owned the way there, and there's a lot of water that moves in that area. So just as long as there's some agreement that water is going somewhere and not pooling in the yard would be good.
Is that on the north side of J Street or is it?
It's the north side of J Street, or no, it's on the south side of it. J Street runs east-west,
Correct.
so it would be the south side of J Street, but there's problems kind of on both sides there. There is a big storm drain that they just put in on the north side, but the south side is still pools water pretty good.
Okay, we'll have to take a look at that, Andrew, you'll have to,
There's a pond there, right? So, it would be hard.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we'll have to work through with the city engineer. Something they might want to maybe. But as far as the on-site thing, we have a water detention pond. So that we limit the rate that's being released.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
the on-site drainage also, just to add on to what Mr. Rapp indicated, was that it will all drain to the south on the site and will be released at the southeast corner into the First Avenue drainage ditch.
All the water will be going south from my property to the ditch and away from.
Away from
Yeah.
his property, correct.
yeah, that's.
Correct.
Here on the west side of 99, right?
yeah,
Okay, his is on the east side.
right. But all connected.
I know ODOT has installed the new storm sewer north-south on First Street, but I just have to take a look at that.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that up.
Are there any other persons who would like to testify in favor of the application?
I have another question, if that's okay. Or do you want me to wait? You tell
You
me.
can wait 30 seconds.
Okay.
Any people opposed to the proposal? Now I'll ask the question, which I should have asked you to go to. Any general questions or that you would like to address?
My name is Brett Van Leeuwen, I own 2 properties, 642 West Second is my seed cleaner, and then my house is at 1127 West Second. So
Can't hear you.
Could you stand up, please?
my name is Brett Van Leeuwen, I own 2 properties, my seed cleaner is at 642 West Second, it's the big seed cleaner on 99. And then my house is at 1127 West Second, so it's across 99 from where this is going in. I apparently didn't see the second notice, so at this time, there's no commercial fueling going in, you're still gonna be units miss.
No, that was my error. I copied the notice from the Aldi Market project
Okay,
and just didn't correct the description.
so that was just the question, no fueling in this time anyway. Okay.
Okay, is there any other testimony? Laura or Andrew or Leland, would you like to add anything or have any additional comments?
I don't think we have anything additional to add. As we mentioned, we're going to take a closer look at storm drainage. Our staff will work with the city engineer and make sure that both the public and private facilities are managing what's being created based on the impact of this development. So my only closing remarks are that we support the recommended conditions of approval. Those are very standard for the development proposal. And as expected, and we look forward to working with the Halsey City staff and the community to complete the development. Thank you.
And I don't have anything else to add unless the commission has questions for me that you would like me to address.
You have the motions here, the approval modified. Now, have we talked about anything here that would make it fall under the modified?
No, there's not. So I will close the public hearing right now, and now the commission can discuss whether you would like to make a motion or not. And my answer is no, I would not recommend any changes to the conditions of approval.
Okay. Staff recommendation of approval. Do I have any motion? You do.
I make a motion, we approve the site design plan per Zehr construction and to adopt findings of fact, conclusions and conditions of approval for file number 2023-03.
Have a second. I need a verbal second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Have a motion and a second.
I would like to put a stipulation on that, that once the drainage study has been done and approved, that everything would be approved.
As part of the city engineer's normal review, he has to approve the plans, and review of that drainage is part of his responsibility. So the answer is, I believe that stipulation is already in the conditions.
Okay,
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I,
I,
No, any opposed? Okay, approved by the planning commission.
Okay, the motion carried 4-0. Since the planning commission is the decision maker for site plan reviews, a notice of decision will be mailed out to the applicant and his consulting engineer and planner. Probably get that out in the mail or via email tomorrow. And the notice of decision may be appealed to the city council if there's any concerns with the planning commission decision. And that appeal must be filed within 14 days after the notice is sent out. And Audrey, do we have names of the people who testified to make sure that we get copies of that notice of decision? Okay. With that, thank you very much.
This commission meeting is closed at 6:43.
I walked down to get the park. Well, at least it was Jeremy the guy and screwed it up. No. Yeah. Can I get it? It'd be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, one with the final building.
Yeah. But. We're counting 3 months. All right. Yeah.